by himself as Young Jay now just in a brush, getting chased down by Zeri. He runs pretty quickly, but this is still going to be Elder. Collected by Live Sandbox. Joey's killing minions, of course.
Elder
in the mid lane as Ice should be able to take down Young Jay here. Does so very comfortably. Super Mega Death Rocket not going to steal the Elder. Nice try, though.
Elder plus Zeri plus Akali that's this fed is, I mean, they could basically just walk across the map and just, this is just the most Chovy thing ever. I'm going to try to hit 350 before we lose this game because I want everyone to know my CS number was high at least. But there's nothing he can do here. What's he going to accomplish?
No, exactly. He may as well steal a blue buff. Just do something. Do whatever makes you happy at this point in time because it's looking very difficult for Gen G to find any way back. Mini stun onto Lost, but there. The Elder Drake still around Live Sandbox as they've exposed the Nexus. Here's the last team fight as Lost is going to get taken down. The big dragon will destroy him. And Chovy standing on his fountain trying to get the AoE, but the Nexus will go down whether they like it or not. And game one goes to Live Sandbox.
Might have a bit of an upset on our hands here. The question is it really an upset with some of the struggles that Gen G are having? You look at the nameplates alone, and it does feel like no one could have predicted Live Sandbox to beat Gen G if you hadn't heard the news, if you hadn't seen the lineup. But yeah, you can definitely really feel it. And you and I think most of our casting team as a whole, we knew there were going to be some issues, but we thought, okay, mechanics alone should push them through this. And I think the Ryze pick is one of those ones where, yes, Chovy can win lane and he can get a massive CS lead, and we said it in the draft, like this is a Chovy pick where you can say, I could just dominate you. But when you go for the tank build, you can't carry the game after you have that CS advantage. And then Closer started getting picks everywhere on the map, and he became too difficult to contain. It was not a great game on the Poppy there either for Young Jay, I have to say.
Yeah, I think Croco just ran over this game, right? I think you can point as many fingers as you want over on Gen G's side, but I think we need to applaud the fact that Live Sandbox, they took their power points, which is Croco and Closer, honestly, like with the way that they play and their early game aggression, and they played to those strengths really, really beautifully. And yes, Young Jay did almost nothing to stop that from happening, but this looked like a Closer Croco highlight reel to me, and it's exactly what we wanted this Live Sandbox to look like.
Yeah. Gen G, it's going to be a tough week. This is the easier of the two matches they have here in week 4, and I think the drafting is going to have to put Chovy on maybe your Akali, put Chovy on the LeBlanc earlier, maybe drafting not to the meta, but to the strength of Doran and Chovy and Ruler so they can carry a game here through the mid game and actually have those Closer-esque moments. Might be the way you have to win this after what we saw there. We saw that Lospa is not reliable necessarily in lane at this level. It really did look like he was just a little out of his element, honestly.
No, I agree. I think that it's so hard because there was so short notice as well, right? Like it's only been like a day or two that these players have had time to actually prepare, and they wouldn't have even necessarily been preparing the most for this particular matchup, right? They'll be facing off against T1 in a couple of days' time. The news does not get very, very good. However, this is the best of 3. Gen G have a chance to bounce back, and we have a chance to hear from an analyst, Carpet Space, right after the break.
Können und noch wir haben einen Weiterfahren.
그러면 이 상황에서 바론을 치는데 가지 않고 일단 멈췄어요.
이 궁이 없어가지고 이거 아펠리오스 궁이 초대박 들어가면서 어떻게 비벼야 될 것 같은데.
월광이.
나 그래도 참 쉽진 않아 보여요.
자, 도무가 기다리고 라이프가 달렸어요. 라이프가 달렸어요. 월광! 아이스! 월광 포화의 트리플 K!
아이스예요 진짜 방금. 괜히 잘못 건드렸다가 얘 분명 터지고 진짜 그러면.
이거 리신 혹시 뒤 잡나요? 리신 혹시 오나요?
뛰고 있고 리신 궁 있어요.
네. 그렇죠.
리신 궁 있거든요. 리신 궁이 있어서 입구강 나오면 이거 전면
이거
없어요. 아펠리오스.
조금 더 가지고
앞에
앞에
일단 브레이커 비노.
이거 리신 와볼래? 리신 와봐.
기다려. 나 앞에 찾을 수 있어. 앞에 봐줄 수 있어. 호응돼?
오케이.
확률이 높긴 했죠.
네,
뭐
근데
뭐가 됐든 간에.
이제 유행을 좀 바라기도 했습니다.
네.
몰래 했잖아요.
원래 슈퍼플레이랑 그런 게 한.
야, 뭐 기습?
이런 거.
궁극기 있어요. 궁극기.
인광고.
인광 두 개.
이게 포탑 뒤쪽으로 갔으면 막히는 건데.
악당이 숨어있는 그림자 속으로. 혼자 남겨진 악당이라도 악당인 건 분명하지. 여기 깜짝 등장. 대가를 치러라.
위치가?
캐년 위치가
되게
재밌죠?
위치가?
카르마 전면 없어요.
체력이
전면이 없거든요.
그런데 아직은 안 잡혀.
잡아줘야 돼요.
야, 체력이 이거 위험하죠? 캐년이
와, 게임은 안 끝나게 막아봐야죠.
들켰어? 아 숨었어.
아, 보영.
너 안무빙 해줘야 될 듯? 이거 그냥 너 뺄게.
카르마 노플.
해볼게.
스레시가 어디로 내려오지?
속도를 붙이는 거거든요. 맞춰놨고요.
캐리아가
중.
내려왔는데요.
이게 뭐
주인의 플레이 그리고 이거
이거까지 먹히면 슬로트
원인데요. 와,
이걸 페이커가
Welcome, everybody, to the Analyst Desk. We are here, well, actually, Carpet Space. Sorry about that. The official name, of course. This is me, Valdez, with Chronicler, and we just had a game of League of Legends. Of course, kind of unfortunate circumstances where Gen.G have to sub in some of their challenger players, and it wasn't necessarily what looked like a fair fight to me, Chronicler.
And that's because Gen.G was fighting an apex predator, the crocodile, unchanged for thousands and thousands of years of evolution. The largest bite force found in nature, can reach speeds of up to 15 kilometers an hour. And you might think that's slow, but when a crocodile's chasing you, you'll be scared. And unfortunately for Gen.G, it was very noticeable, the two players that they were missing, because it's honestly, and we can talk about a draft a little bit, but I don't think a draft mattered that much. There were a lot of points here for Gen.G that should have been completely fine. Poppy Nautilus has a really strong 2v2. The 3v3 is good. You have a lot of pressure points that you can find around the map. Didn't matter because they just got run around by Croco and Closer, and they never really got to play the game.
Yeah, I never really got to play the game. I actually really liked the Poppy into what was already showing, right? Which was Zeri, Lee Sin, and Akali, especially those last two. Like, it just feels really good. Draft felt okay. We did get Rise last, which I wasn't a big fan of. Ended up doing pretty much 0 in that game, but it's not necessarily Rise's fault. I think it was just mostly the way that the game did go. So, yeah, that was game 1 draft, and we do have a bit of a highlight reel ready, which should excite a lot of fans that are part of the, which fan club is that?
Croco fan club, Valdez. Yeah. Yeah,
we have the president right here.
I've been a president. You know, it's a volunteer position. It costs a little bit of time every week, but we do it with love. Because I think that the most exciting part about this Live Sandbox is that, especially against weaker teams, which generally in the LCK is hard to find, but you do see still how good these players are, right? Like a Live Sandbox that on a bad day looks like one of the worst teams in the LCK will still bully a lot of other teams, and it's easy to forget that. And I think games like this give a really good example of really how little quarter is given, even by a team that, within the context of our league, is relatively weak.
Yeah, there is one thing I would say that's a little bit worrying for the side of Gen.G. I felt like there was some tilt factor coming in towards the end. We do know that Doran, when his jungler isn't doing so well, he likes to tilt. Chovy didn't seem like he was very much in the game either at all. There was a lot of times where he was kind of just like farming on his own. And of course, there were some things that happened at the very end of the game, but that's, you know, the game was pretty much over at that point. So a little bit worrisome, you know, how can this team stabilize, especially if later on this week they have to go up against C1? Definitely will be a question. But guys, we do have the highlight ready to go. And this is a highlight reel of one player in particular.
Well, especially by the second half, there's a lot of Closer as well. But it really is a combination of Croco just setting up plays. And there's a bunch of times here where he goes in over aggressively and then eventually is going to get blown up. But that doesn't really matter because all of these plays in the long run go the way of Live Sandbox. And you also see the inexperience, or really in case of loss by inexperience, in case of Youngjae, just really a lack of sensibility of where you should be on the map at which point. And even here, right, like, yeah, Croco, he goes down, but he has faith in the rest of his team. They immediately follow up. And it's these type of skirmishes that you really want with the composition. You want to get your Akali ahead, you want to get your Lee ahead. Both those things really come into fruition. And then right here, and for Lospa, I again want to highlight, this is a player that was on Academy at the start of, or at the end of last split rather, that has only been in Challengers for a couple of weeks and has been struggling there with a completely revamped Gen.G roster. But for Youngjae, Croco clearly showing that if you give him a little bit of space, he will run you over. It's definitely a jungler that I think when behind can really go for the same plays and then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But he snowballs very well.
He does, and I think that would Live Sandbox's recent lack of success. We haven't seen too much of the Croco highlight reel, but we know that he still has it in him.
Last summer?
Yeah, last summer, and just like you were saying, like, this is the LCK. Every team, if they're given a little bit of space, they can clap you. And that's a bit of what we saw in this game. So, you know, there was some talk about the steadfast presences and the positioning of Youngjae. I think it was mostly just, he kind of looked lost out there. And I hope that, you know, this is a game, it's a learning experience for these two players, maybe even a learning experience for some of the older players on the roster of how to handle this kind of situation. but maybe they can go back to the drawing board and switch something up. As guys, we do have the player of the game ready to go. Let's see who does pick it up for game number 1. It will be the man himself, Crocodile.
Yes. Happy. Obviously, it's no surprise who I voted for. I think that the votes for closer would have been equally valid. It was really that mid-jungle 2v2 that was such a big difference maker. And I do think that Chovy has not had the greatest split. I think that he's run into a lot of issues. But this game, it really was just a big diffie in the jiffy, where there was not really anything to be done for the rest of the team. Because Croco was relentlessly punishing his opponent. Like, a lot of these kicks on high-value targets were really, really good. But to me, it really came down to that kind of, especially makes sense for a Crocodile, the kill threat, right? The continuous looking for aggression. And when he falls behind, it looks really silly. Even here, he had a couple of overextensions. But when it works, it works.
Yeah, and we did have 5 votes for the mid lane. Just want to throw out an Ian KekW, Ian Cast, that is, I should say, specifically. And speaking of which, we do have them right now. Atlas and Wolf, take it away for game number 2.
Wow. First he says that it's called an analyst carpet space, and then he throws you shade. This is absolutely ridiculous. I might revolt. Well, if it wasn't for the fact that I learned a lot about crocodiles, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, I was kind of into that. Still a rug, but, you know, whatever.
It definitely is.
You know, it's whatever, like...
It's great that we can always win the argument with logic. You know, it's just, it's so easy. Thankfully, we're back to the analytical rug tomorrow.
No, that was a rare... I voted for the guy who got hyper-fed and carried the game based on the jungler setting him up. I actually usually vote for the jungler in that case. That was a rare mid-vote for me. I just thought Closer really followed up very cleanly, and you could tell he was really enjoying the game and popping off. But red side, actually, choice here for Genji, not a shocker considering that they're 2 important carry players. Doran and Chovy like to have the counter matchup if they can. They like to dominate those lanes. You know that Ruler can pop off in the late game, but he's playing with a little bit of a handicap tonight. As you know, Ronikler pointed out, Lospa, very, very fast track to suddenly finding himself on a second place team here in the LCK, playing in front of a big crowd. And he's an emergency sub. It's going to be high pressure. You're going to make mistakes.
Yeah, it's and also you haven't been in a good headspace throughout Challenger either, right? Like, this is a guy that got subbed out for a mid laner, only in their most recent match. So things not going well down there, and translates into not being in the greatest spot here in the main roster. So there's it's definitely an unfortunate situation for Genji, but let's see how they bounce back here in game number 2, as already the bans have come through. It is the same bans from game number 1, Corki, Caitlyn, and the Renekton, and Twisted Fate Akali to be taken off the board this time. Diana and Karma were the second 2 bans after Twisted Fate last time, but Genji will remove basically the 2 POG vote earners champions from game 1.
Yeah. I'd like to see Youngjae play a hyper, you know, fast farming type carry, rather type jungler in this game, because in terms of being the matching Croco's rotations, matching Croco's plays and ganks, like, he was definitely out of his element. I think putting him on something where he could farm up real fast would be great, but it will be the Xin Zhao.
This is the Youngjae champion though. This is the only thing that we saw him really have too much success on while he was in the LCK, so I'm kind of okay with this one. But Croco does have his Diana available, and that is certainly a worry if you're a Genji fan, because Croco has definitely had some pretty big carry performances on this champion.
Definitely true. And then we'll lock it in here, and the question becomes, what support do we see? I would not mind to see Kale on the Leona again, even blind here. Even though we see a lot more Yumi, we're seeing, you know, some Enchanter supports controlling lanes for Aphelios, getting Ruler or the Aphelios players into the Zeri quite ahead. I don't think you're worried about that, as Liv Sandboxer. The engage that you already have with the Diana is already set up by a Leona. Solar Flares were good. But Closer, Aurelia, we didn't get the Akali, we get the Aurelia. I'll take it. Look at him, look at his face. He's like, oh, I'm locking it in.
Heck yeah, all right. Aurelia into Chovy is definitely an aggressive choice, as that is LeBlanc. So
that's what I want.
Certainly fighting some fire with fire here. Mid lane going to be very fun
This is what, I don't remember if I said it on broadcast or if I was saying it to you in the break, but I want to see Chovy on champions like the LeBlanc. I want to see him in an opportunity to really pop off and explode on the Rift here, not just be a farming tank Rise, but actually be able to show his skill expression, be able to make the Rift his. Yeah. Look for those kills on the back line.
Yeah, instead of looking for blue buffs while your Nexus is being taken, right? Like, if he's driven to that position again, then it is just going to be sad, right? Like, Chovy definitely protected his stats in the last game, but in this one, let's see whether he can actually create all of those issues for Live Sandbox earlier on, and hopefully Youngjae can help facilitate it, right? Because by no means are we blaming anyone on Gen G, right? Like, they just got outplayed by Croco largely in the early game. Closer's follow-up on top of that was absolutely fantastic, but man, Croco really was the apex predator, and it just shows that if there is a jungle gap, it really does
it shows.
Get drawn out very effectively here in the LCK.
For sure. Support bans here on the Karma and the Yuumi, so controlling that bottom side of the wave push and the I mean, honestly, Zeri's going to be happy with the Karma because she can speed up and she's going to have a lot more stability there in the lane. Won't be shoved in as well. But the Leona pick is open now for Lospa. It's his most played in Challengers. Yep. And it's the one that he likes to play the most, even though he's winless on it in the Challenger League because Gen G hasn't had that much success this season. Yeah. But going back to comfort here is always great. I think that's the way to go if you're Lospa right now.
And also, that does deny a lot of what Kayle has to do, right? Like, I think this is a Braum pickup probably, but maybe you don't feel super psyched about that. As Dove back to a favorite as well, as the Tryndamere still up. That was banned in the last game alongside the Braum. As it could just be both of those bans picked up here. Tryndamere, Braum.
Yep, I think so. That's the most likely option here. There's not too much else you'd want to put with the Zeri, unless you wanted to go for something like a Lulu here. But I don't think you really need that because you already have such good engage. So the survivability that Lulu will give you is not necessary. The Tahm Kench is going to give you both defensive options for Zeri, but also aggressive ones. Can follow up on the Tryndamere Aurelia, Diana engage. Oh, the Lulu is what they go for. And, okay, don't hate it. Is Fiora for Doran is a statement pick as well.
That would be a lot of fun. Small sword into gigantic sword. Let's see who's going to be able to win out in this one. As more of a split-pushing style, and this is way more skirmishy from Gen G. I really like that up against Live Sandbox. Largely more scaling draft based on what we see in the jungle.
And
Diano coming through once again.
I think if they just tell Youngjae, like, stay bottom side, just always hover Ruler Los, but make sure that they're never going to get caught out. Make sure they don't get blown up. Make sure they don't get ganked down there alone or dove under tower. And Chovy and Doran, with this draft, should be self-sufficient. They won't need as much help from Youngjae. They won't need Youngjae to survive. Yes, if Closer is being aggressive, maybe he can actually help you turn and kill there in the mid lane onto the Aurelia, especially early. But this allows Chovy and Doran to Chovy and Doran, and then hopefully Ruler should be given enough resources to pop off later on. That's the hope with this draft here, whereas Live Sandbox have a lot of engaged tools. This is an explosive draft. There's so many ways that things can go wrong for Ruler in the back line if they fall behind especially.
Yeah, the thing that I'm happier about if you are on Gen G's side of things is the fact that this bottom lane is not going to be as hyper-aggressive, right? Like, the Lulu Zeri aren't going to be able to find these surprise engages in the bottom lane. Yes, you have a lot of disengage ability, the Whimsy going to be very powerful into Lospa's Leona, but that is more reactionary. So look to see whether Ruler can create these CS advantages and can get some lane control down there on the bottom side. As Youngjae back on a champion that we know he is far more comfortable on, and that, if you're a Gen G fan, will feel much better. But still, I mean, it's Croco's Diana. He is still, as we just learned, he's got a lot of jaw power and can go at 15 kilometers per hour, which didn't sound very fast, but I think Chronicle is right. If that's a crocodile, moving at all is terrifying. And seems really fast.
Well, the scary part about the Croc, man, is you see him, he looks like he's sleeping or he's just sitting there. You're like, that thing can't go that fast. But then suddenly he chomps you.
Yeah, and then takes you to the bottom of the river, spins around a whole bunch. I learnt about that, as we have a few of them in Australia.
We got them in the southeast of the U.S. as well.
Is that, are they alligators or are they crocs?
Alligators, yeah.
I think
Not really crocodiles.
I don't really know the difference. I think there's something about their snout that's a bit different or something like that.
The way their teeth are put together, I think, in their snout, yeah. And I think there's, there's freshwater crocodiles and saltwater crocodiles and all that.
The freshies are real small. They're little babies. I went swimming with one once by accident.
I feel like this is the most K-Kona we've ever been on a broadcast together. I love it. You and I both grew up in areas with alligators and crocodiles.
Yep.
I love it.
Ooh, that was cute.
Yeah.
A little bit of a sidestep there.
We've seen weak spot trolling a lot for the Fioras so far here in the LCK. See if it continues beyond this first one here for Dove.
Yep. Oh, there we go. That's
go.
a weak spot that you're looking for. As Doran demonstrating exactly how good it feels when you do finally get one. Misses that CS, though, so we're going back to feeling bad.
I'll be all right. This does, like I said, allow Doran and Chovy to just play their own 1v1 games, and they won't have to really need help from Young Jae. Now, if Doran starts popping off here, then Croco will come up, and, that's going to be something they have to deal with. But before level 6, that's not really something you're concerned about. And it is going to be a pretty early, pretty good lead early for Doran as Lospa, whoa.
Yeah, he's going to get exhausted immediately. Gets taken down extraordinarily low, but Ruler offering a lot of damage back as Ice being the target here, and Ruler going to get punished by that Glitter Lance.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage onto Ruler, who has no heal. Did use the exhaust that he took instead.
That's hyper aggressive there on that bottom side.
Yeah. It took the exhaust, and you had to use it, actually. So trade of exhaust, the cleanse is popped here for Ice too, but the trade of health is massively favoring the Live Sandbox too. And this is the first time we've seen Azeri take a lead in the early laning phase.
Yep, Chovy going to take the Aurelia for a walk, but Closeout pretty happy about that as he's pushed the entire wave towards that turret. Chovy's going to have to focus on CSing for the next little while, but a lot of pressure here on this top side for Gen.G. Mid lane, fair bit of control for Live Sandbox, but let's see whether Doran can be that big Fiora win condition that we know she can be, right? This is probably one of the premier split push champions in the entire game.
And notice too that Young Jae drops 2 wards for him so that he can continue to be this aggressive. Young Jae has no interest in actually looking for a gank or trying to kill Tryndamere pre-6. He just wants to make sure that Doran won't be punished by Croco up here while he's trying to actually shove these waves through. Because look at how aggressive Doran is being, and he's allowed to because of the 2 wards. You see the ping right there immediately from Croco. He's like, I'm coming, don't worry, man, I'm not going to leave you out to dry. But Doran will have ample time to see this coming with the wards that are placed and actually react accordingly. So it gives him a little bit more power against this Tryndamere early. But Dove is still farming very well.
Yeah, he's getting what he can. And this is all about making sure that Doran is safe in what he's doing. They have invested the resources in there. And there is still a lot of, Doran winning out in these little trades, little skirmishes.
Repeatedly pinging that Croco has not yet gone to his Gromp. That's up. Like, they just repeatedly ping it. Like, where is he, where is he, where is he? Now he's there, they ping it. Okay, he's on Gromp. You guys are safe to keep pushing bottom. Those 2 wards for Young Jae are super smart. I'm just watching the pings non-stop. Like, question mark, question mark, question mark. There he is. Okay, keep pushing bot. You're free to farm, get your blue buff and your Gromp, and then, we're in a nice spot here. 6 is coming up soon for Doran, but Dove as well. So the kind of harassment here for Doran is going to come to an end.
Yeah, and Dove should be a little bit happier, I guess, once he does have the Undying Rage, but it doesn't really get better very quickly for the Tryndamere in this matchup. In fact, like, I don't know, man. My experiences as a commentator with Fiora have been dated back a very long way. I remember there was a time where the Oceanic team, I don't even remember which Oceanic team it was. It was in one of the qualifiers for Worlds, and we faced against Elwind, Turkish player, and he played the Fiora and solo won the game, just by himself as Fiora. The game went too long, and he just won. And so that is, it's always infected my mind, whenever I see the Fiora pick. She can just, by herself, win games.
Well, she has to teleport back now as stuff starts creating up as soon as he knows the 6 is coming online, and now Doran's back here trying to force this ult out, but he has to also CS, so kind of tricky here. He's going for it, though.
Grand Challenge comes out. Let's see whether Doran can catch up to him. The Ghost has been popped. Didn't actually go for a flash here on the Fiora. Of course, you have a lot of mobility just in general. Is Croco just going to move towards Gen.G slowly, like that? Yeah,
now Fiora gets the Ghost out, forces it back, and will, of course, know that Dove does not have teleport. And that's why he backed for full health to look for this. I don't want to call it an all-in, but trying to get out either the flash or the ultimate here. So Doran feels very nice, can freeze the wave here.
Yeah.
And this means that Dove is going to miss a lot of CS because it's such a long walk back, no teleport, and it's really just trying to be the better 1v1 player right now is what Doran is trying to do at the start of this draft. But I think Dove is really keeping up quite well. Looks like everything Doran is doing is winning super hard, but not really in the grand scheme of things. It's not as big of an edge as I think he's trying to push for.
No, and the thing is, like, yes, Tryndamere does scale pretty effectively, as we can see. Fighting against Doran here. Doesn't have the Grand Challenge back available just yet. Slight Summoner Spell advantage here for Dove as well. He does have the Berserker's Greaves. Him move around pretty quick. But that is going to be the first Drake going over to Gen.G for the series, actually.
Yeah. We'll be able to take that first one here. Youngjae is playing so defensively this game. 2 early wards, now 2 wards on the Drake as he is able to take it. And he's just not going to be aggressive or look for ganks. He knows that Ruler and Lospa so far are pretty fine down there, starting to take a pretty nice lead themselves eventually.
Ooh, Chovy. A little bit of trouble here. Lots of friends available. As not going to go for the duet. So Chovy's going to make it to the safety of his turret. The rest of Liv Sandbox going to slink away into the fog of war.
There are 2 control wards, in the river. One on the top side, one, on the blue, not in the river, but then 2 wards, of course, in the river itself. That times out Scuttle. So Gen.G have vision everywhere, so they can continue to just lane the way they are right now and try to trade aggressively, get prio, and then come over to this Rift Herald. So they push in bottom lane. Zeri's going back there. It looks like Liv Sandbox have kind of preemptively decided they're going to just push bottom lane and try to get a plate. And this means that Gen.G can react. They're like, okay, Ice is showing bottom. We can head back down there. It's a big rotation over, though. It's not just Ice. It's also Kale and Croco coming down. So they are really trying to catch somebody on the rotation over here for Gen.G, but only going to find a Grump.
Yep, but they'll still be able to steal that one away. No way that they could actually contest for the Rift Herald with Zeri on the bottom side. So Gen.G will be able to take that one. Let's see how much Liv Sandbox can gain from this, as Croco is going to move immediately towards this bottom lane and look to see whether they can get a plate or 2 as Ruler and Lospa. Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard. 2 versus 3, unable to get towards this turret.
Yeah, this is the idea here. Just zone them out of that experience, zone them out of that CS. It will grab 2 plates, so equal already to the Rift Herald in terms of value here, plus some of that denied CS. Catching up a little bit here is the Zeri. Still significantly behind, but that's just how this lane matchup goes. And I wonder where this Herald gets dropped now for Gen.G, because you're kind of on the back foot on the bottom side of the map, don't have prior there, you won't get it back for a while. Might just be given over to Doran, actually, on the top side of the map to give him a little bit more freedom to start side laning elsewhere. I wouldn't dislike it, actually, if that's where that ends up getting placed.
I think putting money into the Fiora sounds like a great idea, right? Especially when you're against a Tryndamere that can run away with the game as well, right? Like, these are both very volatile parts of the game for both sides. If there are leads that are, insurmountable for either of these champions, it becomes very, very difficult to win the game against them.
Kobe handled that very well. Will force closer back down here. Ruler just kind of babysitting a wave, as it will be Lospa's opportunity to now go elsewhere, as Chovy is just trading so well against Closer.
Yeah. On a leash a little bit there once again, but Closer not too worried about it. Stacks up the Ionian Fervor and should be all right.
So many wards in the river again. Youngjae has really given so much coverage. Steals this Scuttle.
Steals that one away. Moonfall comes in. Knock up after the flash over the wall. Croco really getting out of there as Chovy was rotating in as well.
This is such a night and day difference between Youngjae this game and the last game, and I think it just goes back to what you're saying. It feels like he's so much more comfortable on this Xin Zhao pick.
Yeah.
And it really shows he's playing defensively as well rather than trying to make plays, so he's not reliant on killing or ganking early, but just making sure that his laners can actually take the edge they were given with this LeBlanc Fiora pick.
Yeah, it is also one of those situations, though, where Croco doesn't have agency to get stuff done in the early game. As we can see as well, he hasn't been able to out-farm, as that is a decent stun there onto Chovy. Kale going to move on in. That's a wild growth that you could use, I guess. Doesn't get the knock-up, unfortunately, and so looks a little bit silly. As now Doran trading a little bit. It's just going to be the back from Youngjae. Doesn't fancy the idea of dropping the Rift Herald just there.
Looks like they want to drop it down on the bottom side instead now because they're rotating back over. Zeri will have to back shortly. They know that Kale is in mid and is missing, so they think they can push this through. And I just want to force the plates here into mid. Chovy will be able to teleport back to his wave and won't lose anything here, so even though there was a little bit of extra prio for closer for the moment, it's all very quiet here in this early game as he'll take a Gromp on his way down, and I think this is going to be Ruler picking up the plates as that is about to time out the Herald, so you're going to have to make the call now.
Yeah, Youngjae actually walking over some vision here as well as he gets that control ward into the brush, notices the Live Sandbox have so much vision in this area as well. As Ice comes over, looks to try and lock that one down, but he can just skate over that wall, as you can see.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part of dealing with the Zeri bot, is she can go anywhere, she can get out of anything.
Oh, okay, Youngjae in a bit of trouble here, trying to turn it now onto Croco. Possibly going a little bit overly aggressive. The Extendo Ray comes through there as well, as Ice has to immediately flash himself out of the way. Solar Flare comes down. Moonlight Vigil not to do too much, as Closer is getting bullied out by Chovy just a little bit here. But Youngjae needs to drop the Rift Herald.
Yeah.
It's just going to time out.
It's going to time out here. Is he actually going to drop it from his base? Like, it's really getting low.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, he will drop.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully he did at least drop it in his base. As Closer trying to find Chovy just a little. Gets electrocuted, though. That's not a good trade.
Did I just caster curse him super hard because I was talking about his ward control, and I was like, oh, man, he's going to go down bottom side. They have a little bit of control down there, and then they lost control of it. Croco comes down. Then he doesn't drop the Herald. Now it's going down the top side of the map awkwardly here, and it is going to still be able to get value. Will I think just barely make it before 14.
Maybe this is like randomly genius though, because this is a lane that is in a really good position. They'll get a charge. They'll get some plates. Look, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man, but I'm okay with it.
I mean, this is where it was the easiest and freest place to drop it earlier, and he decided not to, got his empowered back off, and decided he was going to rotate bottom instead because they thought, okay, I actually decide I want Ruler to have more money instead of having Doran get money. But then he wasn't able to do that, so backing just in time to drop it to get it on the top side of the map ends up working out. I don't think it was intended necessarily the way that he wanted.
I think we 100% give him the benefit of the doubt for this one. He had a really rough game in game one. I'm giving it to him.
Well, you know,
he deserves it.
They pick up the gold, and that's the end result. It will be the Fiora picking up those plates right before they fall off. So 4 plates here, put them in the lead by just the 1.
Yep.
And it's on a Fiora, so always good for side laning later on. Won't be the same power in damage and team fighting that Ruler could have gotten with his, but there just wasn't a good opportunity there with the timing. He went bottom side, and this is a very slow game. I feel like Genji has decided to just, rather than try to outdo Live Sandbox early like they did last game, just try not to lose early and play the late game on even footing. Scale up the Aphelios, have the side laning, put Chovy on a champion where he can hard carry. I like this draft so much for the situation here for Genji.
Yeah, and as you can see, all of Genji's veteran players with slight gold advantages outside of Doran, who does have all those plates, and that's why that gold lead is going to be there. Ice takes a lot of damage here from the Infernum, though, as Chovy, nice sidestep. Spotting Croco out, clears out that vision, protects his ward. Good stuff. But it's a really interesting situation, right? Because if you have a look at like the scaling opportunities here for both of these teams, you look at Diana, you look at Zeri, and they scale very nicely. Tryndamere as well, no slouch in the scaling department. Not a lot of range, though.
Yeah.
So if they can get the engages, it looks good. If they can't, it's not really going to work.
And there's a lot of disengage between the Leona, the Crescent Guard. You know, things can get very hairy very early on here as the Demolish procs here for Doran. We'll finally take out that first turret. Gets the golf clap because we've been waiting for this moment for a long time. He finally is able to push it through.
Yep.
Second Rift Herald here is definitely an opportunity for Live Sandbox to fight. I think Genji should just posture and hope for more gold here for Ruler on the bottom side. As they actually are able to wrestle control away. Liv Sandbox do not come in early. Now they have a Diana ult ready with Flash.
They've no Zeri though, and Chovy is here just on the flank, trying to keep Liv Sandbox sorted out. Dove, we know that Herald fights in Tryndamere. It's a dangerous time for anyone facing down from the gentleman that can make himself invincible. As okay, it's a great solar flare there from Losper to start this one up. Could be an opportunity though, but no, doesn't quite work for Liv Sandbox. And now Losper trying to walk out. It is going to be the Undying Rage to get some work done as over the wall goes Dove, but it's to his death. As now, Closer trying to dash around this one, but it's not going to work. Doran, he's got a better lunge, and he's now chasing after Kale. This is what we wanted to see from Gen G. Kale's going to get taken down. Chovy grabs that kill, and meanwhile, yeah, we've got some 80 carries just farming things out on the bottom side while Liv Sandbox have everybody else dead.
We talk a lot about the Herald choke, the meat grinder, that choke point that you could fall into the trap of wanting to fight in so much as the team that has control of the Herald. Gen G walked into the ultimate from Croco, like the ultimate Diana ult, the one that you want, the big one, the fat one, and it's still not enough because we're in the early game and she hasn't scaled up yet, and they don't have their 80 carry here. So even though they try to lock Croco down, he turns around here, gets the big ult. It's massive how much damage they're hoping to do here, but then where? We don't have an 80 carry. There's actually no follow-up here. They put Dove onto Lospa, and you trade your top laner for a support here. And it's like, I get the idea, and I know you've got an ult in the choke point here, but you just don't have the damage just yet in this game, unfortunately, Liv Sandbox. Gen G are way ahead at this stage in that department.
Yeah, and it was 4-for-2 in the end. Rift Herald largely ignored as the dust sort of settles. So those were the first kills to happen this game, actually. Honestly, it's been pretty quiet. 2,000 gold is going to be the end result in favor of Gen G. It's 10 seconds until the third Drake of the game. We've gone one apiece so far. You can see Liv Sandbox wanted to get some revenge. Dash Cannon done for Croco. He's got Sork Shoes as well. I think the damage should be slightly improved, as he does, of course, have Flash ult available.
Oblivion Orb pretty big for him here, too.
Yeah, Closer trying to sidestep some abilities right now. Solar Flare is going to land right on top of him, but he tanks things up for quite some time. Vanguard's Edge comes down as well as Closer trying to dash through this one. They are going to pop, but the Zeri's picking up kills as well. Ice will be taken down, however, as Ruler just snipes him, and he gets back to work on the Dragon. It's all business for the Gen G 80 carry.
A little bit of a disconnect as to how they were going to front to back this after the Diana ult came through. Closer's Vanguard's Edge was good, but they weren't able to prioritize the correct targets, and unfortunately for Ice, he was on the wrong side of that team fight when they decided to re-engage. Doran's able to pick up 2 extra kills. He's 2-0-4 now, and he is going to be a menace on the side of the split pushing here. Going straight down to the bottom lane, will be able to get this entire turret because he's got the Demolish. He's going to take it out so fast. And this is the beginning of Gen G owning control of this map. So many wards on the bottom side of the map too. There's no unknowns.
Certainly isn't, even though the Croco's over here doing this blue buff. Moves on over, clears out that vision. Gromp will be secured, but it's not going to be wrestling back any control of this one. Yeah, we don't have very much time left on this Rift Herald, but Shirley should get taken down in time.
Croco,
seconds to go.
No ult here. It's up in a few seconds, but I think this would be very ill-advised to actually engage here as Liv Sandbox. You're not set up. Ice is not here. You cannot win this fight, not even a prayer.
Yeah, well, it is going to be Shirley going down. Not going to be able to secure that one. Chovy picks up the eye as well, distorts, mimics, gets away as that's a moonfall. It's going to connect. Fair bit of damage there as Croco goes down extraordinarily low. Maybe this Diana just hasn't scaled enough yet, but it's a 1-for-1 trade in the end. Chovy starting to pop off as Ruler keeping Dove at arm's length. He's going to get exhausted. It's a double kill for Chovy. And it's starting to feel like Gen and G are running away with it.
Yeah, you just don't have the damage on this Diana yet. She's got an Oblivion Orb and a belt and Sork Shoes, as you mentioned, but not enough damage to actually think you can really win this exchange, go into this fight, kind of going ham. And because of the timing of this, it's a 20-minute Baron that stacks up after the Rift Herald will take that turret in mid, and there's just nothing you can do about it because you fought this. If you don't fight this, you walk away, you deal with the Rift Herald pretty well, and Gen G can't get a Baron. But you felt so desperate, like we're so far behind, we have to make this fight work, and it wasn't the right call, and it may have just cost them the game, because this may be the last nail in the coffin here. As this is another fight here that unfortunately, at this stage, you're not at a point where you can actually win this fight without better coordination. As Ruler hits a really nice ult here. And look at where Ice is on this fight. Like, he's back there with Doran and Chovy. That's not where he wants to be, but he's low range, right as you mentioned. This is a big problem. And the engage here is nice with the Diana ult, but Kroko is dead on arrival.
And he did no damage with it whatsoever. It was like straight into a Leona, who just heals it all back up again. Speaking of healing, the Grand Challenge comes through as well, and even Extendo Beam doesn't do anything, Wolf.
They have the, exhaust on the Aphelios too, which makes it so much easier as Closer's in trouble.
Yep, speaking of Grand Challenges, as Doran's going to dash around, grabs himself all the healing once, and just tidies up the Aurelia. Man, Fiora looks broken when she's ahead.
I think we're going to a game 3 here. This one is looking pretty much all said and done. Hullbreaker done now for Doran, so he could fight even better in the 1v1s on the side.
Yeah, Chovy going to get Whimsy, but he makes it out. Polymorph, I apologize. As Calibrum going to do a lot of damage here alongside the Graviton for Ruler, locking down the members of Live Sandbox, but they make it underneath their turret. It's not over just yet, but it certainly feels like the drain is well and truly being circled.
Oh, certainly. You can hear the slurping sounds of the water going down.
Yeah.
It's, Fiora can just simply win the game by herself, and if anyone goes to try to stop it, then the 4-man here in the mid lane gets an inhibitor, so you're lose-lose.
Yeah, that's a great Solar Flare from Losper as well. As the Moonlight Vigil comes down, Kroko is out of here. He's even eaten the Wild Growth from Kale, so that's not going to be available for any sort of re-engage. Dove can't lane against Doran. In fact, no one can lane against Doran. He's just way too strong.
And you can't kill him with a group up for the same reasons that, Hullbreaker caused a big problem for our previous teams to deal with the Graves. You can't now deal with the Fiora. She's not quite as tanky, but she's going to teleport back with a new item. I don't know what she bought.
I don't know, but it's killing Dove real fast. Oh, dear. We need to put the items back on again so we can see just how disgusting it is.
Like, what did he get? I want to know. I think the Korean casters are guessing as well, but I don't know how much gold he had because he just bought the Hullbreaker, so he might just actually have, like, an extra piece. Yeah, he got the hammer.
He got a hammer and a pickaxe. He's actually given up on League of Legends. He's going mining. Just seeing whether he can try his hand at more things so that we can also be the best at those. As now, Gen.G just going to go back for that last empowered recall, and we're just going to watch Doran hit Closer a bunch of times with his fencing sword.
Gets all 4. Easy cleanup. Man, I mean, it's not even just that Doran was here catching him. He was way overextended. Like, all of Gen.G was there.
Yeah.
Like, Lospa and Chovy were like, you got this, right? I don't need to help out, right? Like, add it to your solo kills.
Speaking of adding to things, that Death Stance is now completed, and so Doran is just way too strong.
Look at the experience. Dove is the only one who's, like, Youngjae and Ruler are ahead of Closer here. It is a bleak outlook, let's just say.
Yeah, thank you very much, 8-Ball Wolf. Appreciate that one. And look, thankfully for Live Sandbox fans, there is another game after this if they lose, right? As we check out the damage dealt, man, Doran is really... He's picking up this game by its bootstraps.
If I'm an 8-Ball, I need to get a firmware update so it doesn't say ask again later, because there is no ask again later on this one. There is no ask again later.
No, there is. Well, there might be a later, but I think that the outcome is going to be the same. Oh dear. Gen.G, we'll see whether they do wait. Like, I hope they don't wait another 2 minutes for this Baron, because I think that with 2 open inhibitors, they should just be able to get some pushing happening, especially with Doran available. Especially if, oh dear, nice. Yeah,
he just needs whatever gold.
That Radio Futures his way up.
Whatever gold he can get is what he's so desperate for right now, and that
he got the wolf.
Yeah, he did, and he will tell Dove to give him these minions. He's like, don't you dare. I need everything I can get right now. I do need a Hurricane eventually if we're going to have any prayer of winning this game. And, for Gen.G, you're just waiting for that Cloud Soul to spawn. And, again, last time you split 4-1, you got inhibitor turrets, 2 of them. This time you get the inhibitors. And then, if the Drake isn't up then, you get the Nexus turrets, and then we know what follows next. And this is just inevitable. We use that word a lot here on the English cast. I feel like it's one of our overused caster words, but...
it's between a rock and a hard place, I think.
No, that's mine. That's mine for sure.
Oh, no, I was trying to use it in context, and I just didn't manage to. Not going to lie. I apologize. But yes, no, that one, that's ours. Like, we use that all the time. I think I used a trash compactor reference to mean that, to try and avoid it, which was even worse.
3PO is not coming, Live Sandbox.
Yeah, exactly.
They are not going to shut down the garbage smashers on the detention level.
Yeah, no, please. Just shut them all down, Wolf. No more rocks or hard places.
Right now, Croco is trying to get on the gaffy stick. It's not going to happen.
Oh, man. As long as he can get to the Tashi station, I think he'll need some more power converters after this one. As Genji, yeah, they're managing to at least get these waves pushed forward, but it is just going to be a waiting game. Another 20 seconds until the Baron is available, and there's no way that Live Sandbox can leave their base. So that is going to be the next opportunity for Genji to get a push going, and with Doran 306 on the Fiora, and with Baroned up minions and a hull breaker, it is going to be very, very difficult to stop him from just ending the game.
Yeah, they don't have amazing siege per se. Like, they have good wave clear, but they can't just walk down mid and end the game. Because their team comp also doesn't have great engage, just all in on top of Live Sandbox and win because their wallets are that heavy. So they have to just like win by 1,000 paper cuts with this 8,000 gold lead.
Well, lost bar. Thankfully, he has Eclipse this time, so that's going to save him. No Fnatic brushing here for Live Sandbox. I like the idea.
Just casually trying to kill the Nexus over here.
Yeah, this is the Fiora situation. If Fiora comp gets ahead, this is what happens. Doran will just push wave after wave after wave. The rest of his team should then have the ability to take whatever objective they would like, because there will need to be more than one person to stop this, as Chovy will mimic his way out before the polymorph actually comes through, as that's a decent moonfall. Ruler's going to flash out of the way of it. Crescent Guard is brilliant from Yongjae to break this one off. Ruler as well, landing the Moonlight Vigil. Ice trying, I mean, he was doing stuff.
Dove had
none of it actually hit.
Like, Doran is like almost able to win the game by himself while his team wins a 4v4 fight over here. Such a great Crescent Guard. They're going to get the Baron. Doran's going to reset. No ult for Croco. No health for Croco.
There is a teleport available as, oh man, Croco almost just dies. Chovy does a lot of damage right now, and Genji just pushing them out. As soon as Doran turns up, Live Sandbox know they have no right to be here, and the Baron will go down. It is certainly taking a lot longer than I was expecting. This lead has been pretty gigantic for a very long time, but Genji not allowing themselves to fall into any traps and throw this game away.
This has been the most safe win, the most technical League of Legends that you could have with a comp like this, where there's no showmanship really. It is just the cleanest, safest way to kill the Nexus, man. If this was
Doran like going through a base gate and then just killing Nexus turrets. He's got a 4,000 gold lead, by the way.
Yeah, on his own.
I don't know why we're looking at the total gold.
I don't think he wants to go.
Like there's 9,000 gold gap. Like obviously these numbers are going to be silly.
I think he wants to 1v3. I don't think he wants to kill the Nexus per se. But now he's like, well, maybe I will. They all just get by him. He is coming over here to look for Kale.
Yeah, there's the grand challenge. He's issued a challenge against Lulu. That's not very fair, is it? As he's going to riposte. Okay, let's see whether they can actually lock him down. He does take a lot of damage. Oh, no, that's the double kill. Tries to get out of the way of all of the skill shots and does so. Yongjae bounces on top of this area. It's a double kill for Chovy as well. And Kale is, in fact, the only one left alive. What?
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, ha-ha, Skippy, you jerk.
Well, I know the Carpet Space loves to say that was a game of League of Legends, so they better say it after this one.
Yeah, this has been a game of League of Legends. This was a Nexus, and Genji will go to a game number 3 up against Live Sandbox. A much better look here. They just needed to shake the rust off with the new composition. Just to remind you guys, Genji playing with substituted players because of COVID-related issues. Peanut did test positive and had contact with Lehens. He therefore cannot be here either. And Score as well is unfortunately also quarantined right now. So unfortunate, however, this was much better.
I think this was a game where we got to see Chovy and Doran prove their hands, you know, show how good their mechanics are, how good they can carry a game if given the opportunity. Yongjae played defensively only. He was exactly where he needed to be, and that was putting vision down to make sure the enemy jungler doesn't punish his pushing solo lanes. And then in the bottom side of the map, somehow Ruler was able to get ahead there against the Zeri even after that early exchange went her way.
Yep.
And then it was just really unfortunate for Liv Sandbox, some really poor fights before their composition came online. Gave even more gold over to Genji, and the snowball rolled down the hill real slowly, but it was very big at the end.
I mean, it rolled down the hill like really fast, but then hit the bottom of the hill, and the Nexus wasn't dead, right? And so then we just coasted for a little bit.
We nudged it along.
Yeah, and we still got off the ride. Everything was okay. As we check out some of these post-game stats, I do need to correct myself just a little bit. The entirety of Genji did have contact with Peanut, who did test positive, but the booster shot wasn't there for both Score and Lehens, and so therefore, just for safety, they had to stay back. So that is the official ruling, and I apologize for saying it a little bit wrong. As we can see, this is exactly, look, that's a water slide, and then there's like that slow bit while you slow down, and then there's a pull at the end.
Yeah,
that's precisely what this goal graph looks like.
I think that we will see Genji draft like this again. I almost want to say Liv Sandbox should pick red side. You do not want to give these picks over again late to the final pick for Doran, the Fiora. They got the LeBlanc early this time too, and Genji just drafted to be, okay, we have 3 players on this team who are way better than your 3 on the other side, and that worked out in game 2. We'll see if they can win it in the third one.
Yep, exactly right. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a short break. When we get back, the analyst carpet space.
Oh my god.